This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Rabbi Say, we're going to start Be'ez Hashem, the Sugya of Kedushas HaDibur, Words Can Kill series. We mentioned it in the beginning, we've been leading up towards this, but this is definitely the crunch of the Sugya, Be'ez Hashem. And the reason for that is not because it's so chomor, but it's also so dangerous. It's also something that unfortunately people don't realize the severity of. And what we're going to do today, before we get to the actual halachas, is discuss what it's all about. And obviously we are discussing the halacha of shmiras haloshen, of speaking lashon hara, how dangerous it is. And I'd like to spell out for you today an introduction, and then Be'ez Hashem tomorrow we'll try to go and do some of the halachas to understand when is it mutter, when is it asa, when does it apply, when does it not apply. Be'ez Hashem, we're not going to spend too long on the halachas because we could spend a year on the halachas. But as far as I remember, I think it's on the app. Either it's on the app or it's on Spotify, one of these things that have all the shiurim on Shmiras Haloshen that I gave in Yeshiva here, going through the Sefer Shmiras Haloshen. Okay, says the Heilige Chofetz Chaim, Bala Sefer Mechaber Sefer Shmiras Haloshen in Chelik Beis Perek Tes. He says, isn't it unbelievable how people run around the world looking for scholars? I'm not going to mention names. People are running over there to go to this keva. People go all the way over there to that keva. People run to Gedolim, and they should continue doing so. But, says the Chofetz Chaim, what good are all of these brachas? What good are all of these scholars if a person speaks lashon hara and he speaks rechilas? And the Torah, as the Chofetz Chaim tells us mefurish in Devarim, Chav Zayin, cursed is the one that strikes his fellow in private. When we will discuss what this ramification is, that lashon hara is basically striking your friend in private without even realizing it. It's unbelievable, Rabbi say. The truth is, I'm going to mention like this. Excuse me. So, we all remember a number of years ago, there was a very, very bad meat scandal in Monsey, right? That caused tremendous problems for people. People had to kasher their kelim. People had to kasher their ovens. People were doing tshuva for eating treif. It was terrible. It affected hundreds, if not thousands of people, chasanas. Hashem Yirachim, Rabbi say. Hashem Yirachim, you think of such a thing and you think, wow, it's possible for one person to do such an aveira that can cause hundreds, if not thousands of people to be michshol. It's incredible. I want to say that if a person speaks lashon hara, if a person has one conversation with his friend on the phone, on WhatsApp, with an email, in bed, in the room, stam schmoozing, one conversation, Rabbi Say, can have more aveiras than that person caused in the Monsey meat scandal. The aveiras that you can do when you say one sentence of lashon hara against an entire community. That's it, Rabbi say. Every single person in that community might have been affected. And you're over in an Issa Daraisa, and we'll go through the exact halachas of lashon hara, and you yourself were over on a bigger aveira than the guy in Monsey. And everybody looks at that guy and says, oh, how can you do such a thing? Little do we realize we're all guilty. Not chas v'shalom as. People are guilty of worse aveiras, of an aveira that caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash. Look at the tzoros in Klal Yisrael. Look what Klal Yisrael are going through. We don't have to look too far. We've said this many times. At people Nebuch who are having a hard time in life. Whether they can't get married, they can't find a shidduch. And even when they do get married, they can't have children. You know what it means to be married and not have child? It's terribly difficult. And when you do have children, maybe they're not healthy. And if they're healthy, maybe they're not going but derech haTorah of a mitzvahs. And maybe parnasa is hard. I can't seem to make a parnasa, it's so difficult. People have tzoros, health issues. We don't have to look far, we can find people that had any of these issues, if not many of them. Why? Because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. And here's the aveira that not only caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, but continues every single day to make sure that it doesn't come back. And we just keep on doing it. And we keep on saying it. And it doesn't seem to affect us. It doesn't bother us. We have no problem speaking about somebody else. We have no problem putting somebody else down. Rabbi said this has got to be the worst of every Aveira, right here. And we're going to be discussing it, Be'ez Hashem, in the next few days. Says the Chofetz Chaim, going back to what we said a moment ago, of people that go running around for brachas, and people go to Kvarim, and again, it's a beautiful thing, and they should continue doing that. He wasn't putting it down. All the Chofetz Chaim is saying, if you take my advice, Chofetz Chaim, Rabbi said, if the Chofetz Chaim would walk in here right now, who wouldn't run to go and get a bracha? Who wouldn't have a problem waiting online for 4.5 hours to get a one bracha, even if it's a bua, from the Heilige Chofetz Chaim? Everyone. No shiloh in the world. Because the Chofetz Chaim, but the Chofetz Chaim himself said, if you take my advice, if you want good parnasa, you want children, shidduchim, you want every bracha in the world. So here we go, Rabbi said, it starts right here, right now. Learn Shmiras Haloshen. Be careful what comes out of your mouth. Be careful what you hear, and respect other people's feelings, because that's what Lashon Hara is all about. Says the Chofetz Chaim, that's better than every skula and bracha in the book. That's unbelievable. That's the Chofetz Chaim's own advice. Says the Chofetz Chaim in Shmiras Haloshen again, Perek Ches, Chelik Beis, Perek Tes. It's the most cursed thing in ganz Klal Yisrael. You're blessed more than anyone else for a person that's careful in this. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah Yutes Amud famously. Famous Gemara in Avodah Zarah Yutes tells us, Alexandria, man boyachaya, man boyachaya. Who wants life? Who wants life? I got a magic potion to life. Everybody started crowding around. Everybody wants life, right? Give me a quick way. Come on, Rabbi. Give me a quick way to finish Shas. Give me that chip. Put it in the brain. I'm going to have a good night's sleep. I'm going to know Shas. Because I don't want to work hard. So everybody came running over to Alexandria. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah Yutes tells us, we want life. What do we have to do? And he said to them, a person wants life. Oyev yomim liwes toiv. That's a big yesod. Look at people's good. And careful what you speak. Obviously talking about Lashon Hara. Asks the Chidah on this Gemara, what's the pshat that it says it twice? Man boyachaya. No, who wants life? I'm sure everybody would also come running. Why did he say it twice? Why did the Gemara tell us that he said it twice? Says the Chidah, gewaldige pshat. Says the Chidah, and again, there's an arichas on this, which we're not going to go through now. But the Chidah explains, because he was telling us a secret in his words. And that was, who wants Olam Hazeh and who wants Olam Haba. There are two good lives, two good worlds that he was referring to. And that is this world and the next world. So not only explains the Chidah, the halachas of Shmiras Haloshen and Shmiras Haloshen are helping us in the next world, Olam Haba, Olam Ha'emes, we'll get our schar, they're beautiful, we're building palaces. But more than that, you're going to have a good life in this world. You're going to be able to learn to look at somebody else and see the positive, not to see the negative. That's the whole Yesod of Lashon Hara, which we'll get to by Rav Pam Zatzal. We'll talk about that. But the whole Yesod of Lashon Hara is looking at someone else in a negative light, but it goes further than that. You know why a person often speaks Lashon Hara? What is Lashon Hara? Lashon Hara, again, in a nutshell, we'll discuss the halachas as we go. But the halacha basically means that I put somebody else down. I speak about him in a negative, derogatory manner. Why do you do it? What do you gain from it? You gain something from it? Chofetz Chaim himself writes in the Sefer. Anyone that knows Shmiras Haloshen knows this. He says there's no taiva. There's no intrinsic taiva for a person to speak. I wake up in the morning, I need to speak that Lashon Hara. Gishmak! There may be Gishmak and Hana in other Aveiros, but Lashon Hara, I never met a guy, and the Chofetz Chaim says this himself, I never met a guy that's, I can't wait to get to the mikvah and speak that Lashon Hara. This is Gishmak! And Eloi Matzino, such a thing. What's the pshat? So why do people do it? Because they want to raise themselves up. So when you put somebody else down, you go up. So it's a quick fix to make yourself better. Or you could work hard, and you can work on your midas, and you can become a better person. But that's hard. That takes a lot of work, and people don't like that, right? Because that's annoying. Because I have to work on myself, and that's hard. Right? It's hard to work on my midas. It's hard to work on my kina. It's hard to work on my kas. It's hard. Come on. I can't do these things. Let's just go. Quick. 1, 2, 3. No. So Chofetz Chaim says when you do it 1, 2, 3, you put somebody else down, you become elevated. That's Lashon Hara. That in a nutshell is what's going on. Oh, Rabbi Isai said the Chofetz Chaim in Sharas Chira. He explains that when a person speaks Lashon Hara, all types of averis of ben Adam lechaveroi are nichal, come into it, and we'll see Be'ez Hashem, it leads from one to the other to the other. It's incredible. And the Chofetz Chaim says a mashal that we said already in a different form. But the Chofetz Chaim says this in Shmiras Haloshon. Let's want to point these things out before we get to the halachas of what yes and what no. Let's understand why. What's this all about? Why is everyone going so crazy? Or maybe not. Chofetz Chaim in Shmiras Haloshon says like this. He says there was one of these peddlers that came around with Sforim. Right, they didn't have Sforim stores in those days. So there used to be a guy with his wagon and his horse, and on the back of the wagon was a whole selection of beautiful Sforim, and he would go from city to city, from village to village, selling all these beautiful Sforim. People would buy them. They needed the Rashba, they needed a Pnei Yeshua, they needed things, they bought it. Beautiful. And he sold, at one point, a beautiful leather shas. Gorgeous. Mamish gorgeous. There was a guy there who saw this leather shas. He fell in love with this leather shas. He figured out even his wife will be muskim because it matches the wallpaper. Baruch Hashem, he buys this leather shas. This is going to be the end to all of his issues. He's going to start a daf yomi. He's going to start the daf. He's going to learn it from his leather shas. He's so excited. He asks how much is it. It's a fortune of money. He has the money. He pays the guy. He walks back beaming to his home. This leather shas. He walks into the house. All his kids like, what have you got? What have you got? He opens up the box. Wow, beautiful leather shas. In those days, even in nowadays, a beautiful leather shas is nice. In those days, it was beautiful. Gorgeous. And he puts it, makes space in the Svarim shrine, takes out the Svarim, puts it in, it fits, beautiful, Masada, everything, gorgeous, almost like the mantelpiece of the whole Svarim shrine. He has this gorgeous leather shas. In a week, starting the new Masechta, this is going to be Gavaldik, I'm going to open up my new leather shas, the first day of the Masechta. Fresh, that leather smell, you crack it open, geschmack. A week goes, he's anticipating that day, and he starts the new Masechta. He takes out the leather-bound, beautiful, I'm giving it a smell. Geschmack. Ready to start the Heilige Torah. He opens it up, and it's empty. There's not a single word in the Sefer. Every single page is empty. There's not a word, not a letter on it. Now, chutzpah, this guy gypped me. I had to pay for this. Could you imagine what it was? It's the Heilige Chofetz Chaim. We all think the same way. Baruch Hashem, we learn. We sit and we learn Gemara, Mishnayos, Halacha, Chumash, whatever we can, Nach, Medrash, whatever we can, be Chaparayim. And we hope, and we assume, that when we come to that next world after 120 years of living here, the Rebbe will say, you remember that Kiddushin? You remember the Chiddush of the Rashba that you were Machadish to? Beautiful. That Chumash, the Aruch Chaim HaKodesh, the Ramban, the Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch, the Taz, the Kiva Eger, the Pri Megadim, beautiful! It's all going to be there waiting for us. And we'll get there, it's going to be blank. Nothing left. Because of the words that came out of your mouth caused all the Torah to be forgotten, to be erased, to be gone. Rabbi said the Chofetz Chaim, that's why we say at the end of Shemona Esra, Elakai Netzor Lashoni Meirah. And then we say, Psach Libi B'Soyer Secha. Says the Chofetz Chaim, first and foremost, daven to the Rabbeinu Shalom, no lashon hara, no bad speech about somebody else, and then, once you've done that, now you can ask for Torah. And that's exactly the lashon of the Lakai Netzor that we say. Unbelievable. Says the Chofetz Chaim again in the Hakdama, that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, sinas chinam lashon hara, and it continues on a daily basis. The Gemara tells us, kol yoyim v'yoyim, every single day the Beis HaMikdash is not being rebuilt. It's because of our aveira that caused it to be destroyed that we continue to be over on and continues to make sure that the Beis HaMikdash is not here. And all the tzaris and Klal Yisrael that you look around, Rabbi Sai, it's because we are guilty. Admit it, Rabbi Sai. Which person can stand up right now, and say, I am not guilty. I don't speak lashon hara. It's not negayah to me. I don't believe there's a person in this room. I don't believe there's a person that's listening to the shiurim can say that. Unfortunately, halavai. But maybe, for the rest of today, and maybe even tomorrow, we'll be able to say that we actually stopped ourselves once, from speaking a bit of lashon hara. We stopped ourselves. Somebody came to Chofetz Chaim. He said, Rabbi, give a shir. It's so difficult. I prepare the shir. I come to the shir. And everybody comes there and falls asleep. What am I doing? Start for myself. I can learn myself. Baruch Hashem. I don't need the shir. There's no godless in giving a shir when everyone's sitting and sleeping. Chofetz Chaim said, you have to understand. If there's one person who's there who would have spoken Lashon Hara, and he's not because he's in a shir, it's worth it just for that. That shows us what it means to withhold yourself from just one moment of speaking. Like something comes out of your mouth. You want to say something about him? Stop yourself. Even if it's for 10 seconds. Even if it's for 10 seconds. Stop yourself. Because realize that what you're doing is destroying the world, restraining, preventing all the bracha from coming into your life, and preventing the Beis HaMikdash from being rebuilt because of us. Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshas Shmos just last week looked around, as the Torah tells us, to see if anybody was there before he killed the Mitzri, and there was nobody there. And as Chazal tell us, Rashi that he brings Medrash, the Torah tells us, now I understand, says Rashi, Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to find pshat. Why are Klal Yisrael in Egypt? Why are they in Soros? Why are they in Avodah Kosher? What's the pshat that we are in this matzav? Says Chazal, Moshe Rabbeinu said, now I understand. Because they're speaking Lashon Hara in Kolzman, they're speaking Lashon Hara, it's causing terrible things on Klal Yisrael. All the Gzeiras. Everything bad, Rabbi says, because we are speaking Lashon Hara. Rabbi, I'm sorry if I'm a bit harsh today. I know it's early in the morning, it's first thing in the morning. Oh, leave me alone. So I have to hear the first thing in the morning. Give me a nice geschmack share about what bracha to say on pretzels, or if I'm allowed to squeeze cream on Shabbos. That's much easier to handle. But Rabbi said, I don't need you guys going to Shamayim after 120 years and saying, I didn't know. If somebody told me, I would have stopped. Now you can't say that anymore. It's too late, guys. You're going to get up there and they're going to say, no, you were by the shir. Oh, and by the way, if you're not by the shir, then Hashem Yirachim, it's even worse. But if you were by the shir, then you know about it, and you know how serious this actually is, Rabbi say. So why aren't people more careful? Why aren't people more careful? Said the Chofetz Chaim, people just don't realize. They just don't understand the severity. They think that I'm not allowed to speak. And said the Chofetz Chaim, that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara does to you. He says, come on, Ruvain, you think you're going to be careful in Lashon Hara? It's not happening. It's over. It's not happening. There's no way that you are going to stop speaking Lashon Hara, so you might as well say it. Because anyway, you're not going to be careful. Or he says it's too difficult. It's only talking about a lie, not if it's true. One of the very first halachas the Chofetz Chaim when you learn Shmis Halachim talks about is telling you that big thing. No, it's true. What do you mean? I didn't say anything that's a lie. A lie is even worse. Rechinas maybe. But Shemra, or by saying something that's 100% true. As again, we'll get to the halachas. Talks about the inyan of the Lashon Hara. David HaMelech Rabbi said, Tehillim Lamed Mir Chofetz Chaim Oiv Yom Liras Toiv Netzor Shonchem Miros Fosecha V'Dabe Mira. Asked the Heilige Chofetz Chaim Shmis Halachim Shabbos Chira Parak Aleph says like this. He says there are Taryag mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs, and for every single one of these mitzvahs there is a guarantee for Chaim, for life, Toiv, for good. So why does David HaMelech, out of all of the mitzvahs, pick this one? This is the Chofetz Chaim's kasha. Why does David HaMelech in Tehillim pick the mitzvah, the halacha of Lashon Hara? That is the halacha of Chaim and Toiv. Says the Chofetz Chaim like this. In Torah there are two chalakim. Chelik Aleph we know is ben Adam l'mokim, right? So it's a dibber's two sides. And Chelik 2 is ben Adam l'chaveira. David HaMelech is telling us it's not good enough just to keep ben Adam l'mokim, just to say Kriya Shema, just to do the mitzvahs that are nageh to the Rebbeinu Shalom, eating matzah, shaking lulav, all of these things. In Olam Haben, Olam Habon, Olam Hazeh, if a person wants to do it, the Eitzeh is Lashon Hara. Why, says the Chofetz Chaim? Because if a person learns to guard his mouth, he learns to watch what the words that come out of his mouth, says the Chofetz Chaim, that is the key for all of Ben Adam Lechaveiroi. Everything. Chofetz Chaim, Rabbi Sam, just according to the words of the Chofetz Chaim. Every single inyan of Ben Adam Lechaveiroi rests in this halacha. It all starts from here. And just like we have to keep Ben Adam L'Mokim, we have to keep Shabbos Kodesh, we have to eat matzah on Pesach, Dalet Minim for Sukkos, we're going to keep the Ben Adam L'Mokim Chalakim, we have to keep the Ben Adam L'Chaveiroi Mokim. And as the Chofetz Chaim explains, Pshat and David HaMelech in Tehillim, is the David HaMelech picked Lashon Hara, because that is the halacha of Ben Adam L'Chaveiroi. Says the Manshter Rosh Yeshiva Zeichet Tzadik V'Kodesh Levacha, in the Sefer Yira V'Das and Parashas Shemini, he says people don't miss the boat. They think, okay, so I'll learn the halachas. No, I'll open up the Artzko Baruch Hashem. There's so many sforim out there on the halachas of Lashon Hara. There's even a pocket halachas series on watching your tongue. Baruch Hashem, I'll learn the halachas. No, I'll be okay. He says the Heilige Mensch Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, that's not the ikar. Of course you have to learn the halachas and you have to know them, and learning the halachas brings a person to keeping them. There's no shaila. But what a person has to realize that the ikka is not to mitzara somebody else, not to cause pain to somebody else, to give him the correct covet. As Chazal tell us, in the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, ala toiv, ala boidav, ala gemilas chasodim, says the man Rosh Yeshiva, how can a person work on number 3 that the world stands on? Gemilas chasodim, if you're not medaktek in what you say, in the words that come out of your mouth. And Rabbi said, let me just end here. The Gemara brings us simonim of a dog, that if he goes like with these simonim, he has to be killed. He must be killed. I'm going to go through very quickly because we are a little bit late now. Number 1, his mouth is always open. Number 2, there's saliva dripping from his teeth. Number 3, his ear is drooping down. Number 4, his tail is between his feet. And number 5, he barks and there's no voice that comes out. Says the halachic Chofetz Chaim. That's Lashon Hara. His mouth is always open because he's always ready to say something about somebody else. Saliva is dripping down, right? He makes a mark wherever he goes, right? He dirties partnerships and other things. He destroys marriages, all sorts of things. His ears are drooping down. He's not just talking, he's always listening to find what he can find. Lashon Hara, his tail between his feet. He doesn't do anything about it, b'chal, and he barks and there's no voice and he says, hey, I didn't do anything. What did I do? Rabbi said, I know personally people in shidduchim, especially older people, have had these phone calls and they told me there is no shaila, that the reason that they are suffering and they're not getting a shidduch is because some person who thinks he's innocent, who thinks he didn't do anything, spoke badly about me. And because of that I can't get a shidduch. Now, alas min hashamayim avada. But he said, I saw it firsthand. Someone spoke about me and since then I'm not able to get a shidduch. You know what that means? The words can affect someone for a lifetime. You can destroy a marriage. You can destroy a person, a human being, and a shama. You can destroy because of the words that come out of your mouth. The Arvi Nachal writes, life is speech. We know that the Rabbeinu Shalom put in us, in Parashat Beishus, Nishmas Chaim, Unkles tells us, that's what made us Ruachim, that's what made us into a human being, that separates us between us and an animal. Says the Arvi Nachal, he brings the Heilige Baal Shem Tov, that says, there's a meter on our words. How many words that we can speak? When you run out of words, you run out of life. And the Rebbeinu Shalom then takes away your life. And therefore, how careful, says the Arvi Nachal B'Shem, the Heilige Baal Shem Tov, how a person has to be so careful that every word you say has to be measured, has to be thought about. Because that can actually destroy your life, and it can destroy anyone else's as well. And Rabbi said, Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue a little bit more, but just to understand, just to give us a little bit of a taste into what we're going to be discussing. The words that come out of our mouths can destroy families, lives, businesses. Rabbi said, today, Be'ez Hashem, let's be mekaber on ourselves, to be careful, to watch what we say, to measure what we say. And Rabbi said, the Be'ez Hashem, as the Chofetz Chaim writes, the Rabbi Shalom will give us so much siyata d'shmaya bracha in our own lives. Have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.